Fuji have held the JPEG crown for as long as I can remember, and the film recipe workflow is definitely one of the brand's biggest selling points. However, in recent years, Lumix have brought the competition to the straight out of camera workflow, and in today's video I'm going to dive deeper into the pros and cons of Fuji's film simulations and Lumix's real-time LUT function. So before I delve into this topic, let me quickly address why straight out of camera JPEGs are important and how they can improve your workflow. I'm someone who loves to take photos every single day, and if I had to spend time editing every image before it gets shared online, then I'd probably never share anything at all. Of course, when it comes to client work, it's always best to shoot raw so you have more control over the final delivery, but if you're just snapping away on a day out with friends, then a raw workflow would likely be overkill. And I'll be honest, the editing part is my least favourite, so I'm always looking for ways to cut corners and save time. A few years ago, it was this desire to be able to shoot and share quickly that got me interested in Fuji, and I own the X-T3 and the X100F for quite some time, but I always thought the film recipe workflow was flawed, and even in 2025, I still kind of feel the same way. I've been testing the X-E5 for a few weeks alongside my trusty S9, and from a workflow standpoint, I can definitely see a winner. So let me dive a little deeper into the Fuji film recipe workflow for those who may have never used a Fuji camera before. You select your film simulation as a base, and then you can dial in a number of parameters in camera to adjust the final look. This includes grain, color chrome effect, tone curve, sharpness, noise reduction, and so on. And then once you've dialed all that in, you can save it into one of 7 custom slots. There's an app called Fuji X Weekly that I've always used when shooting with Fuji cameras, and it's essentially a library of different recipes. You find a style you like, and then you can dial in those settings listed below in your camera. It works just fine, I guess, although it is a slow process, and sometimes the looks you find are only suitable in certain lighting conditions and environments. And then if we compare this to the real-time LUT workflow, it starts to feel a little bit outdated. With real-time LUT, you can load in up to 39 custom LUTs, and they can be added to your camera's LUT library either via the Lumix Lab app or by saving the LUT file to your SD card. And both of these methods are super quick and easy. Using LUT files also means that you can use your own presets in camera. This gives you way more flexibility than being stuck with a finite number of usable film simulations, and I say usable because there are some in there that will inevitably not suit your taste. In fact, back when I had my older Fujis, I would only ever use a classic chrome film simulation, as the rest just didn't really do it for me, to be honest. Luckily, in the newer generation of Fuji cameras, there's a few more that I like, such as the Realer Ace and nostalgic negative film sims. But even in 2025, I'd say that there's only 4 simulations I'd actually use, and if there's a particular film simulation that you love, then the chances are that you can find a LUT that someone has made to replicate it online. You can also adjust your look in camera with Lumix. You can add grain, color noise, and even stack 2 LUTs on top of each other. You can adjust the intensity of each LUT as well, just in case it's a little bit too strong for your liking. It's incredibly flexible and intuitive, and ultimately I find it easy to get the look I'm after. The X-E5 has some quirks when it comes to setting your look, and at first I found this kind of confusing. For example, there's now 4 different ways to change your film recipe, either by using that film sim dial on the top, with the dial on the front of the camera, in the quick menu, or in the main menu. And if you want to use a custom look that you saved to one of your 7 slots, then you need to make sure that the film sim dial on the top is set to C, and this tells the camera to prioritize the simulation saved in the preset rather than the one showing on the top dial. This threw me at first, and I was wondering why my black and white recipe was looking purple and weird on my display. As you can probably tell, I'm constantly out and about testing multiple cameras at a time, and this is where today's sponsor comes in. I've been using PGYTECH gear for a while now, and I can always rely on their products for being super high quality. The One Go-To backpack is incredibly robust, with nice padded dividers and a bunch of clever compartments to store as much or as little as you need. I love that it actually stands upright when you put it down, so that means I can easily grab things out from the top one-handed if I ever needed to. I've also got the Beetle camera clip attached to the strap, and again that makes it really easy for me to switch between cameras without camera straps interfering. I also use the Archetype quick release plates on a bunch of my support equipment, and again that just makes it much faster to get things done. This is the very first time PGYTECH have supported this channel, and I've loved their products for a very long time. So if you are looking for the highest quality bags and accessories at a reasonable price point, then please check out the links in my description and show the brand some love. Thanks again to PGYTECH for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the Fuji versus Lumix debate. Naturally, the files from the Fuji have a more filmic approach to colour, but that doesn't mean you can't dial that look into a LUT yourself. In fact, there's now this new feature on the Lumix Lab app called Magic LUT, whereby you can essentially upload your own photo into the app, and then it basically reads a photo, takes, all the sort of color information and replicates that into a LUT that you can use on different photos. So let's say, for example, you saw someone was shooting with classic chrome on a Fuji. You could just effectively take that file, put it into Lumix Lab, get it to generate a LUT, and then beam boom bam, you have a film simulation inside your Lumix. Of course, it's not completely perfect, and there's going to be some instances where it doesn't work as well, but it's a really cool feature of the Lumix app that I think will definitely add a lot of more layers of creativity to your workflow, especially if you are looking to get a quick and easy look straight away from, let's say, an image bank of colors and styles that you really like. And I guess that's a difference between using a LUT compared to using a film simulation, is that you're effectively changing that film simulation to suit your style, whereas with a LUT you can make it exactly how you want it, upload it into your camera, and then, upload, that's probably not the right word to use. One plus side to the Fuji X-E5 hardware-wise over the S9 is the fact that it has an EVF. But let me tell you that having it there really doesn't make it a much better shooting experience, to be honest. The EVF is really small, it's not very sharp at all, and realistically speaking, I had a much better time just using that back LCD screen. So if we are going to have that argument in the comments about EVF versus no EVF, I'd rather just not have an EVF at all if I get what the X-E5 has, and if I was to have a camera like the X-E5, then I'd be expecting a much better EVF for the price point it sits at. Another thing to take into account is the price point of these cameras, and even though I don't have the exact prices up in front of me right now, the S9 I know goes for around £1,000, and the X-E5 I think is around £1,500 with that 23mm f2 lens, which by the way is total crap. It hunts like hell and it's really loud and clunky and slow to focus. Not a very good pancake in my opinion. They've definitely cheaped out there. I do think though, from a value perspective, that the S9 is the better choice because you are getting a full frame sensor, which is going to give you better low light performance, that full frame look, which means better subject separation and so on. The Fuji is still a APS-C sensor. The area where I do think that the Fuji sort of catches up or does a lot better than the S9 though is in the build quality and the ergonomics. I must say that holding and using a Fuji is always a very fun experience, where the S9 does feel a little bit more plasticky, but I sort of get around that by using the SmallRig L grip on my S9s, and I've also got a custom one that I'm building currently for my gold titanium S9 that I just got. I do think ultimately it's down to your personal sort of choice and decision as to whether you would prefer to go with the S9 and real-time LUT or a Fuji and the film recipe workflow. Of course, if you're already really sold on the Fuji look and you've seen loads of work that you like that was shot on Fuji, the whole film sim thing really is down your street, then of course you're naturally going to lean that way, and that's totally fine. But if you are looking for an alternative to that maybe gives you a little bit more creativity and definitely is more flexible and easier, really, a much faster workflow, then the S9 is going to be the sort of newer, slightly more optimized version of that, I'd say. That being said, there is something special about the X-Trans sensors. There's something special about Fuji and their color workflow and their color pipeline, if you like. They do color very well and very differently to the other brands out there. I really hope this video was somewhat useful to those who are looking for their next camera for this quick turnaround kind of workflow. If you did, please let me know in the comments, and of course if you have any questions or anything to add to this topic, then please also comment that below. If you're interested in seeing some more examples of the real-time LUT workflow, then here is a video that I shot in Corfu last year, again using real-time LUT with the S9, so if you're interested then feel free to check out that video next.